Hello, everyone. This is Jim Okersinski with your Week 5, Chapter 3 lecture video. I am going to try and be brief. I understand everybody is working diligently on their annotated bibliographies that are due at the end of the week. So I'll get into Chapter 3. I've already read through the discussion board, many good posts there about working with sources and meeting the writing prompts. The annotated, once again, is due on Friday, but Chapter 3 is all about writing in the middle. That's probably my favorite chapter in the whole book, and it is the most critical stage in the research process. You're going through the researching portion of your for your annotated bibliography. You're reading and you're summarizing. Hopefully what you're doing is you're drawing out some information and targeting information in your sources that you can use to help you write the summary portion of your annotation, right? And thinking about how it's relevant and how you're going to use it to your topic. Remember, you have a three-part process that we'll cover and review a little bit later in writing an annotation. Check the little note, the page in Blackboard on what is an annotation. All right, so hopefully what will happen is that you are able to extract new information and data in working with your particular topic and your sources. So the end of I believe in the next week after the 4th, we have the double entry journal, and I'll come back to that particular assignment in a minute. But I'd like to get to the PowerPoint about Chapter 3. There we go. Chapters 3 to 5 to me are the critical chapters in this book, but especially chapter 3 because it talks about the writing in the middle, and the power of writing in the middle takes place in the middle of the research process, right? So Ballinger talks about this in the beginning of chapter 3. Academic writing is a conversation, either entering or adding to it. I'll get my mouth to work in a minute. Then we need to acknowledge the conversation with the source, which is really a conversation with ourselves. So you have this inner dialectic that's happening in your head, right? You're working with sources, you're thinking about your topic. The idea behind research is to learn new information and use it to support your thinking about your topic, all right? This is a knowledge generating activity, and this is the important part of the research process, not grabbing a quote, regurgitating it. What does a quote mean? How does it further your conversation or what you're thinking about your topic is? I'm not looking for a report. As I've been saying often, I'm looking for a research essay. So if we look at writing as a genuine conversation between you, the writer, and the source, and ultimately it's going to be a conversation between you, the source, and the reader, right? Don't write to record things. Write to make meaning and to follow your own words about a subject to see what you have to say about it. Sources are used to support your thinking. Let me say that again. Sources are used to support your thinking. This is where you make that move from that research report to the research essay. What is it about your source that'll support your thinking, what you want to say? A couple of good exercises to work through on your own as you're going through chapter 3 would be exercise 3.1 and 3.2. Saying back to a source, getting into conversation with a fact is always a great one when I talk about the looks of men and women's perceptions of looks and attractiveness. And exercise 3.1, I guarantee you I can always stimulate a full 50-minute in-class session with that particular activity. The idea here is to understand how you get into that conversation with one of your sources. So you want to make sure that you're able to get that information out of your sources and have a conversation, right? So we have to talk about your voice and theirs, using sources responsibly. We get into the idea of attribution. That'll be naming the speaker, using quotation marks for also all the quotes that you use. Citation, in text and the works cited page. In other words, the cross-reference. It's important. You see, using and citing sources in Blackboard, if you want to take a look at that, how do you go about using the voices? Remember, you are asked to summarize in your annotation. There's no quoting in annotation. This is how we go about using the voices of others. The chapter talks about this taxonomy of copying, which is an interesting section that everyone should read. The near copy, the minimal revision, the moderate revision, and substantial revision. Whether you summarize or paraphrase, you have to understand that how much of the original language you use, okay, can lead to plagiarism. I hope everybody takes a good look at what is plagiarism on page 87. Okay, the common knowledge exception, they're also on page 87. How to go about using and citing sources. This is critical, and how do we work through the weave in academic writing, which we'll talk about in chapter 4. So the idea here is Ballinger talks about the note taker's triad of quotation, paraphrase, and summary. Paraphrasing demands ownership. Okay, good writers find their own way of saying things. This is critical. This is the reason why I chose this particular portion for your discussion board post this week. Given the 8-week limits of our summer course, I can't spend a whole lot of time on it, but understanding paraphrasing is critical. Summary is a longer paraphrase, all right? You're taking longer material and you're summarizing that. Okay, it captures the basic idea, argument, or theme from the originals. If you're taking the original line, what an author is saying, and you're summarizing it and you're regurgitating it, you have to cite this. You're taking the ideas and thinking of another individual, all right? You can boil down a passage into something a little smaller, but the idea here is when you're taking the intellectual property, the thinking of authors, and you're passing it off in your essay, you can't pass it off as your own thinking. Paraphrase and summary are also are ripe for plagiarism. You want to make sure that you attribute the original author's ideas and thinking. Okay, and quoting. Remember, you want to quote selectively. Provide the context. I think as we get into drafting next week, I'll talk about my favorite item each semester is the quote hamburger, and my example on that. I'll even throw up an image that I have, a picture of the quote hamburger. But you want to quote selectively. You want to provide a context. That means what I call writing around a quote. All right. You have to introduce the quote. You have to provide some follow up after the quote so you can explain, interpret, and analyze the quote and how it supports your thinking. So this is the critical stage in the research process and working with the words of others. Frankly, it's really straightforward. You find a source, you provide a citation, you look at who the author is, you summarize the source, and then you turn around and provide a contribution and a relevancy to your particular research project. That's great. But when you start weaving it into the essay, this is where the skill basically begins, right? So that is what's called the note taker's triad. So the target assessment for chapter 3 is the double entry journal. Now I've uploaded, let's see if I can get to it here. I have uploaded here in the folder a copy of a double entry template here that you can please make a copy. As you get into it, it says make a copy and rename it and save it to your particular drive so you can use it. It is a critical step, so everybody gets a copy of that template, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the weekly screencast, right? So let me get back to my PowerPoint if I can. So just to give you an idea about this assignment, MLA citation. This is real straightforward. That's going to be due, and it's the target assessment out of chapter 3. You're going to turn around and copy and paste your citation from the annotated bibliography. Then you're going to grab a quote or a paraphrase or a small summary from your source material, which if you've read it for the annotation in your annotated bibliography, you're good. And then I want your commentary. So look at pages 80, 98, 99 at the double entry and how to go about commentary, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the screencast video on the weekend. All right, so remember, reminder on the annotated bibliography, you're looking for the introductory paragraph, your sources. All 4 categories are represented. Citations are accurate and complete. Sources organized alphabetically. Annotations follow the 3 components. There is no quotes in these annotations, right? You want to provide a short summary. 8 source minimum has been met, and make sure margins and fonts meet guidelines. The actual example in Blackboard is also a good example of how to format that document and annotations, right? Um, Here in this particular slide, I have the makeup of MLA citation. You can also find that in some of these resources in the using and citing sources resources in Blackboard. Now, let me get to, got the double entry journal. Remember, the annotated bibliography, you want to put your, I should say, upload your copy here to the annotated bibliography folder. Then you're going to want to upload the assignment to the annotated bibliography assignment. Right here is the upload. All right, and let me see. Let's get weekly course units. All right, and let's get back to week 5. It's hard to believe we're in week 5 already. All right, so the double entry journal. This will be due next week, I believe. So take a look at the assignments. You're working with 5 of your 8 sources for the annotated. All right, so you want to make sure that you look through those particular information there, and you want 5 sources, 3 excerpts, quotes, paraphrases, and summary added to the left-hand column of your document, and corresponding commentary on the right. So let's get to the, here we go. All right, citation, quote, paraphrase, or summary on the left-hand side. Your commentary, what does it mean to you? What's the relevancy? How does it move your thinking forward? All right. So this is the target assessment for the double entry journal is the targeted assessment for chapter 3, and then we move into the research essay drafting phase. All right, everybody, I've droned on enough here. I hope you have a safe 4th of July weekend, as I've stated in some of my communications with students, and also the previous announcement. I understand it's the holiday weekend. Be sure to do your best in uploading the annotated bibliography. Accuracy and correctness is the key, and then we can move on from there. I'll try to really review these as quickly as possible to provide feedback. If there's any revisions are required, they can be done before we really get into the essay writing portion of the course. So that being said, once again, have a safe 4th. Good luck.